It's a sea of red in the markets and cryptocurrency today. So let's jump in, take a look at what's going on. This is Bitcoin on the daily right here, kind of dropping off that level, broke the June low like we talked about yesterday, last couple of videos. Right now, the range low is 16.4. So just like I talked about yesterday, a lot of the big YouTubers telling you the bottom was in. This was a bottoming structure. We're going to be off to new all-time highs, just like back in here, or actually right here is what they were all telling you, that this was the next move that was going to happen. And of course, those are people that haven't had any bear market, global macroeconomic bear market experience. A crypto bear market in a bull market macro environment is different than a macro bear market environment. So a lot of people telling you that this was a bottoming structure for a big reversal while the Fed is tightening, while we are in a risk-off environment. They just don't have the experience in these markets. So that's why I was never sure that this was going to be the bottom, although, price could bounce back up and kind of stay in this range. Even though we've dropped, we haven't closed on this low yet, but I knew that this would get tested, potentially breached. We'll see if it holds on and goes lower. A lot of that is going to depend on what we see in terms of contagion with the FTX situation, with the miners. A lot of miners are switching off their equipment because the asset price, Bitcoin price, is less than the cost of utility to maintain them. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens, and what does happen if the miners can no longer stay in business to maintain the network. What happens with Bitcoin at that point? So I don't know that it'll get that bad, but the big miners are not going to be able to continue to operate. Right now, midday, a couple hours till close, the Dow is down 1.5%, S&P down 1.5%, NASDAQ down almost 2%. And a lot of this sell-off is because of the uncertainty with the elections. Again, the markets like certainty. The elections are not going as they were predicted. A lot of upsets, a lot of general imbalance in terms of what was expected, and what the market wants is certainty. They like gridlock because not much gets done, and that's good for markets, right? When you have one party in control, a lot of things can happen that can really affect markets in terms of liquidity and things like that. The biggest issue that we're looking at right now, obviously, we have CPI coming out tomorrow. If that comes out much hotter than expected, that could create a little bit more of a sell-off in the markets. But again, what's really going on is, just like we've been talking about, this is just another bear market rally, getting to oversold positions, and markets are kind of unwinding that a little bit, and probably most likely will come down and test these October lows that were put in. We have the VIX kind of hit a little bit of a bottom level here and reversing. When the VIX is high, time to buy. When the VIX is low, look out below. The Dixie starting to pop back up again. The 10-year, which is interesting when you're in a risk-off environment, a lot of times the yields go down because capital is flooding into the risk-off. But this time, the 10-year is up while the markets are down. So that's an interesting little situation that's playing out there. And then again, with Bitcoin here, how low will this go? Well, like we talked about, there's really, in terms of support, there's not a whole lot until you get down to that, around that $14,000 level, really, is what you're really looking at for the next major levels of support. I figured 15, 16 would be a good range where Bitcoin could bounce for a little while. You have a little blip right in this area of support to potentially get through, but a lot of people are looking at the volume indicators, and there's a big gap and really nothing until you get down to that 14,000 range. So this could continue to drop down there, especially if you start getting mass liquidations of over-leveraged entities out there that we don't even know about. I mean, there's so much contagion in the space, so much stuff going on like FTX that, people are just doing illegal and, bad things, just like 3AC, just like Circle. It's just one after another. And again, it's like Warren Buffett always says, when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming without any clothes on. And it's the overexposed, leveraged people that are just doing illegal things. And again, crypto space is unregulated. A lot of these companies are offshore. A lot of the exchanges are offshore. They don't have anybody watching over their shoulder, and they're just doing whatever. There's a lot of speculation out there, and a lot of different things. And it happens in traditional finance too, right? I mean, we saw it going all the way back to Enron. We saw it with Bernie Madoff. Sam Bankman-Fried was respected in the industry, was involved with government regulations, supporting candidates. Bernie Madoff, he was on the board of NASDAQ. He was, highly respected, and, he was a complete fraud the entire time. So it happens in traditional finance, just like it happens in crypto. It's a little bit more rampant in crypto just because of all the scams that are out there and just the different things, and it's unregulated for the most part. That's one of the reasons I've always just used Coinbase. They're in the United States. They're a publicly listed company, so they've got a little bit more oversight, but who knows what could be going on behind the scenes with companies like that too. But that's just who I've used to do my trading. I don't have any money in crypto right now. I've kind of been on the sidelines here for a little while all this is kind of going on. I've been more in the traditional markets, playing around with some stocks on some of these moves, but I went all cash today right before things turned and started going south in the markets. I had a little position in Facebook that I unloaded today right around that 103.70 actually was my limit order of a sell. So I rode this up here and let that one go. So we'll wait and let the dust settle. I've been playing with AMC in and out up in this area here. Haven't done anything, waiting for this to kind of settle and see where that goes down. So those are some of the things I've been kind of playing with, watching some stocks. But right now, all eyes are on Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the daily moving averages. And again, rejected off that 100. And the last time that happened was right here, just like we talked about. And then again, right here and right in this area. And didn't make it to the 200-day like we did up here. Go back to 2018, last time you're in a bear market, lost the 200-day, and then it was all 100-day, keeping it down at that point. Like I said, I kind of felt like my last few videos that we were in this area here waiting for the final capitulation. So this is pretty much what we've experienced. We came off the 200-day, the 100-day kind of held it down the rest of the way, and now potentially moving into this final capitulation. So let's take a look at what that was. Past performance doesn't mean we're going to see anything like that, but just to get an idea, the last time it rejected at this point in the game off of the 200-day was a 50% drop basically. And I made a video a few weeks ago that Bitcoin could drop another 50% from here. And let's see where that puts things right now. That would be, well, not from there actually, 50% off of the 100-day right here. If you dropped it 50%, that puts you right around $10,000. So, that is a probability, not likely to happen like right now, but with the contagion out there, if you start getting minor liquidations, if some of the miners have to shut down and liquidate and, really bogs down the network, and you get, some serious contagion going out there, if some other exchanges start to crash, some other DeFi stuff starts to crash, if, Michael Saylor has to start selling to cover some of his notes, because his notes have certain levels that the asset needs to maintain. They have to pledge more assets to cover, but with the devaluation, he may not have enough Bitcoin to cover the loans outstanding, depending on where all that is right now. And you have to start selling. Doesn't mean you have to sell all of it. Doesn't mean that's going to single-handedly tank the market, but what's happening here is there's a lot of shaking out going on, a lot of speculation whether CZ did this on purpose as a calculated chess move, just kind of to expose FTX, get them to admit they were insolvent and then not do the deal. Will Binance actually go through with a purchase of FTX? Probably not. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why would you do that when you already have your own exchange and you can just sit back and, just wait? The other thing too is this hash ribbon buy signal has been invalidated once again. The rule used to be that once it puts a low in, it doesn't really break that low after the buy signal flashes, and it did. Why? Because this time is different. A lot of people were looking at fractals again, going back to this area here, pulling this out and just kind of saying this is what we were getting ready to do. And this time is different. This is a macroeconomic bear market cycle that we're in. Liquidity has been drawn out of the system. The Fed is not going to rescue crypto. The Fed's not going to rescue stock markets anytime soon. They'll rescue the bond market potentially and some other things, but they're not going to rescue risk assets, especially highly speculative risk assets that are unregulated, where things like FTX, Circle, 3AC can happen. So Ethereum's kind of unwinding all of this ETH merge speculation. Kind of really, right now, not too terrible looking. Hasn't broken its June low yet, which ETH led everybody there with an 800 going down to 800 points. So where will that end up? We'll just have to wait and see. XRP completely unwinding this entire move here. Cardano, a lot of the altcoins not looking good. Solana, a lot of speculation there in terms of their exposure with FTX and Alameda Research, Matic and DOT unwinding. Let's look at Dogecoin, see what Dogecoin looks like. Just about done unwinding this whole move here. This little, the fake pump based on the Twitter news with Elon. So a lot of people did really well on that one. So again, just highly manipulated markets, a lot of the same price action across the board. So where will this settle? Likely, it seems like the most likely probabilistic range is going to be around that 15,000 range, and then might bounce around in that 14.5, 15,000 range for a while to see what else is triggered. But if other liquidations are triggered, if big holders start having to sell, like miners and Michael Saylor and people like that, that could drive down even further to that 10,000 level. And then, like we said the other day, we've seen 2 times in the last 4 years that Bitcoin has gone down to that $3,500, $3,000 to $4,000 level. Will it get to that level now? I'm not saying that's likely or realistic or probabilistic. There's a lot of buyers, and there's definitely a lot of buyers at 10,000. There's probably going to be a lot of buyers on the way down to 14 in that area. And obviously there's a lot of people buying in this area right here, or entities. The general retail public's not buying right now because at this point, you might as well wait and see where the dust settles. But like I said yesterday, this area here, 25,000, that's not your generational buying opportunity. Like a lot of people told you, it wasn't the best opportunity to buy in your lifetime. The best opportunities to buy were here, 3,000, 3,500. Those have been some of the best areas to buy over the last 4 or 5 years. Actually, you're right around 3,000 here, going back to 2017, went up to 21, dropped back down to 3, went up to 14, dropped back down to 4. And then this was the $2 trillion super bubble created by all of the stimulus, quantitative easing, Fed liquidity-driven markets. And we saw the same thing right here with the NASDAQ from March 2020 on. Same thing, now unwinding all of that liquidity. Same thing with the Dow. Same thing with the S&P, looking very familiar from 2009 bull market all the way up in all of those assets as well. So we've seen this picture multiple times, and I think there's a little bit more left to happen. We'll see how the CPI comes out tomorrow. If it somehow comes in lower, then the markets, would have a nice little bounce, even including Bitcoin and crypto, unless there's other, liquidations going on here because of the contagion from FTX. But, and whatever else out there is lurking under the, under the system that we don't know about. But for the most part, this isn't too bad. It's a nice controlled unwinding here, not a super big panic mode, kind of like everything else we've seen. This drop right here, let's just look at these. I mean, these are just levels, right, that have been unwinding. So let's just kind of take a look. This last level here cracked down, about 20, 30%, 25, 30%. This level here cracked, again, that was about a 30 to 40% drop. So far, this one has been a overall 22%. So another 10% puts you down around about that 15,000. So, that's what's like most likely realistic and probable right now for Bitcoin. And Ethereum most likely is going to come down and test this, $800 range, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So a lot of work left to do. Still waiting for the election results to kind of resolve so the markets can get some comfort there. Waiting on further contagion and fallout from the FTX situation. CPI tomorrow, and then markets can kind of try to find a bottom to range in for a while after all of those things settle, and then see what the Fed has to say about stuff, regulators and things like that, and what's next for the space. So these are the things I'm looking at, and I'll see you on the next video.